Through some very strange turn of events, I have gone from a special education teacher and now finally an AWS Community Hero. And at 22, the last thing you want to hear is that you're basically waiting for a stroke.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and for those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Hiroko Nishimura and I am a technical instructor and a technical writer, and I am the founder of AWS and CloudNewbies.com, and also a LinkedIn Learning instructor teaching courses called Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers. So the reason why I'm decked out in my AWS reInvent gear is because in fall of 2020, I was given the honor of joining the AWS Community Heroes program. This is such a great honor, and there's, I believe, a little over 100 or 120 AWS heroes in the world, and I'm one of them. And this is just very profound moment for me personally, because I am not a what people are calling 10 times engineer. I was a special education teacher, and through some very strange turn of events, I have gone from a special education teacher to an IT specialist to a content creator, technical writer, technical instructor, and now finally an AWS Community Hero. So in today's video, I wanted to share my journey over the past 10 years of my life, from where I was in college as a special education major all the way through today. Okay, where do we begin? I guess we'll go back all the way to college. So as mentioned earlier, my majors were in special education. So I specialized in elementary special education and severe disabilities. I graduated from undergraduate in 2013 and got my master's also in special education in 2014. I wanted to be a special education teacher because I wanted to take part in helping kids learn. I had so many teachers throughout my childhood, including my mom, who helped me get from, a blubbering child to an adult. And schooling and education was very important to me and my family, and I also wanted to kind of give back and pursue my career as a teacher. But some pretty substantial things happened in college that completely derailed this thought process, and one of them was that I had brain surgery when I was 22. In my junior year of college, I had my first grand mal seizure, which is what a stereotypical seizure looks like. Someone faints and then they start having a seizure that's like their whole entire body. I had that happen in spring of my junior year of college, and it took about 3 months for a diagnosis. After half a dozen different brain scans, turned out that I had this rare vascular malformation. Vascular means blood vessel, so basically a blood vessel disorder called arteriovenous malformation. Because mine was in the brain, I was at a higher risk of having a stroke. And at 22, the last thing you want to hear is that you're basically waiting for a stroke to happen. And because I was so young, I was told that it's basically a given that I will have a stroke at some point. We just don't know when, how, or how severe the consequences will be. The last option I had was brain surgery, which was like open craniotomy. They open my skull up and then they do stuff and put me back together. It's definitely the most invasive option. Obviously, I had to get my brain cut open, but once it's done, and I don't have to wait for 2 or 3 years to know if it worked or not. And at the point where we were contemplating what kind of treatment methods for me to do, my condition was deteriorating so quickly that quality of life was not very good. I was still going to college, but I could barely walk to the classroom. I was having breakthrough seizures. Like, it was just a huge mess. We're just gonna go in and do it. And thankfully, it was in a good part of the brain, if having stuff in the brain could have a good or bad part, because it was in my left frontal lobe. So it's a lot harder when things are inside the brain. Mine was on the surface. So they were like, oh, it can go in there and then just take that out and boom, 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 done. You'll be good as new. Spoiler alert. After brain surgery, you're not good as new. You have brain injury, a lot of things happen, and basically we had no idea a lot of things would happen. So in the spring, I started taking very random classes like Japanese history and psychology classes and stuff like that. And that's when we started realizing that there's a lot more to brain surgery than chop chop, paste yourself back together, done. As a special education teacher to be, I suddenly realized that I myself am now in need of special education. So I thought my career was going to be teaching and helping kids with disabilities, and I in turn became disabled. So that was a very profound moment for me. And I have really bad executive function disorder. I had anxiety disorder, panic disorder, sleep issues, memory issues, very, very bad memory issues, and attention spans. It was just a huge mess, but I really credit my major to help me get from, wait, what the heck am I supposed to do? I can't do anything that I used to be able to do, to, okay, let me accommodate and modify my life, my school, my education, my career to find myself a place. It might not look like what I thought it would look like, but it's going to be a place for me. It was pretty tough. Teaching is a very labor intensive, emotionally and intellectually and physically very, very intensive job, and special education even more so. So I had to kind of step back and reevaluate if this was something that I can still do and whether it's the right path for me, especially as I was recovering from brain injury and a lot of the physical side effects of the brain surgery. And I decided that I wanted to see if I can work more in the office side of things and disability advocacy. So after I graduated college, I moved to New York with the hopes of finding a job in disability advocacy, because a lot of nonprofits are headquartered in New York, and everyone's like, oh, if you want a job, you go to New York. New York is not where you go when you want a job and you don't have experience. So after half a year of searching for a job, I ended up getting an offer to work as a junior help desk engineer at a Japanese consulting company. And I personally had a lot of kind of trepidations about taking such a job that required Japanese, because I came to the United States when I was 7. So my Japanese is not up to par with people who grew up in Japan and went to college in Japan and worked in Japan. So I was like, is this even possible? But I didn't have any other job offers. I was nowhere close. I put out about 600 resumes, but no response from 99.9% of them. So I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's give this a try, because it's not like I have any other options. Did I have any technical skills? No. Did I even know what a domain was? No. Did I know what I was getting myself into? No. But I figured, the worst that can happen is that's not for me, or I couldn't figure it out. And then I quit after 3 months. I gave it a try. I started working in help desk. I learned everything on the job because I had no prior experience. I tell people that help desk is a great place to start, because that's where you start with all the quote unquote basic problems that you have to solve. And a lot of the basic problems are very, very, very routine, like password reset, printer doesn't work, network is down, this program won't respond. All these things are very routine. And after a while, you get the patterns, you know what's happening, you can fix it pretty quickly. And then once you get used to those routine issues, then you can start kind of leveling up and learning more complicated things. And because you're surrounded usually by people who are tier 2, tier 3, and they have a lot of experience, you can ask questions, you can learn a lot while learning on the job. And after 10 months, I moved on to an IT support analyst role at another company. And here I finally got to touch stuff like servers. Whoa. I was doing more the server support, the network support for clients, and proactive maintenance of backups and stuff like that. And after a little over a year there, I moved to a tech startup in Hudson Yards. And that's when everything changed. So before that, I was working in legacy. It was legacy Windows servers on premises. Everything's on premises. Even if we were monitoring things using SolarWinds, the stuff we're monitoring was on premises. And then with this new company that I joined, everything was about the cloud. So everything was about, SaaS products. We're using Okta, G Suite, this really new and exciting for me, because I was wait, this is kind of like using social media. It's like using Facebook. I'm monitoring and managing all these IT infrastructure stuff, except I can do it like I'm using social media. This is super awesome. At the time, I didn't know this was the cloud. I was having fun. I enjoyed it. And I liked that a lot of things were a lot more accessible to me than were a lot of the very old school legacy stuff. And so I was working there in support as technical service engineer for 2 years. And during that time, I was trying to figure out with my manager, like, how can I get promoted? How can I get a salary increase? Cloud engineer or cloud administrator sounded like something that I was interested in. One of my friends told me about AWS and how an AWS certification changed his life. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. But what's AWS? So this was when I first started learning about AWS and Amazon Web Services. Before that, I'd heard about it because our company used it, but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what cloud computing was. I didn't really understand fundamentally like what it is. And when I started diving in, it was just so overwhelming because it offered so many different services and so many different things. Like I just like, wait, so what is it? Like, what exactly is it? And you can't really explain what it is except to say it's like everything. I thought it was really exciting because it just seemed so in the future, but at the same time I was like utterly confused. And I wanted to take the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam first because that's what my manager recommended. I started studying, I started watching courses, I started reading knowledge bases, blogs, and it got to be 2 weeks before the exam and I still had absolutely no idea what was going on. Like I could not even identify the basic services. And I was like, dude, this is not gonna work out. Like I need to pass the certification exam and it's not working out. And I thought back to how I accommodated my schooling and education to fit my needs. How do I learn best? How do I learn and retain the most amount of information most efficiently? Because remember, I had 2 weeks left. And I was like, well, I am trained as a teacher and I learn best when I get some information in and then I regurgitate them back in my own words. So I was like, okay, well, making websites and stuff like WordPress, like that, I can totally do. So let me start a blog website that outlines all the content that I need to know to pass the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. And I'll use it as my own study notes. So that's what I did. I got all the content you need to pass the certification exam written out in my own words, synthesizing everything that I'm learning and everything I'm researching. And when you're writing things out and when you're synthesizing into your own words, you start to have questions, right? You're like, wait, is this correct? Or is this understanding correct? Wait, these seem to be discrepancies. Like, how do I resolve this discrepancy? And so it's like a really good exercise in making sure you're retaining the correct information, not just any information. And by doing that, your understanding of whatever concepts that you're trying to learn becomes deeper and it's easier to just retain and use for the certification exams and anything in life, really. So I created the website in, I think, about 5 days, and I studied it for the next couple days and passed the certification exam. Because I was on AWS free tier, so it's free for another year, so I'll just leave it up, and if it helps like 1 or 2 other people, I'll be happy. I shared this website as a resource on the Higher Tech Ladies Facebook group, which I love, by the way. I highly recommend it if you're a tech lady. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, I was looking for something like this, something that explains these concepts in ways I can understand. I was like, wait, there's a need for this. So one of the biggest problems that I had was that though there are a lot of resources that explain the basics of cloud computing and Amazon Web Services and all the different core services that exist, there weren't any that I could find that explained them to people without technical background. Like everything was a jargon, and for someone who doesn't understand the jargon inherently, because I am a tech transplant, when something is defined using a jargon, I just couldn't understand it. So it was kind of like when you go to Wikipedia and then you click on a link and then you click on a link and then you click on a link and you're like, wait, so what was I researching in the first place? So it was just very exhausting and very difficult for me to understand even the fundamental concepts, because whatever they were like metaphoring it to, going like, oh, this is like this. Like I didn't have that background knowledge, so I didn't understand what they were talking about. So what I focused on when creating AWSNewbies.com was to explain things in layman's terms so that people who don't have the engineering background or the technical background can also understand what cloud computing is, what Amazon Web Services, and what the core services are. Because I think that inherently these concepts and services are not something that requires 5 to 10 years of engineering experience. It shouldn't require like this hardcore engineering background for you to be able to use it. Because of that focus, it hit a very specific niche, and that niche was what I ended up pursuing for the next 3 years, which got me to here as an AWS Community Hero. Maybe a month or two after I passed my certification exam, I was invited to create technical courses with LinkedIn Learning, which used to be lynda.com, to create courses with LinkedIn Learning to help people learn about cloud computing and Amazon Web Services without having any technical backgrounds. And this kind of was the first time I started to realize that maybe I have a fairly unique set of skills that when put together can help a lot of people. So imposter syndrome aside, my life is just full of imposter syndrome. But I said yes, and here we are. I created Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers courses. So there's 4 courses altogether. And when you take from the first course to the fourth course, theoretically you should be able to sit into the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam, even if you didn't have any technical background beforehand. Obviously, you need to study and you need to learn the material and look certain things up. And I recommend that you play around with AWS before you take the exam, but the knowledge and the content should be there. This was an incredible opportunity that I am super glad that I said yes to, because it opened the doors for me to reevaluate how I work, why I work, and what I do. So until then, I was working full-time. I thought I'm just gonna keep on working full-time in IT. Maybe what I do will change depending on where I'm working or what position I take, but I'll always be an employee. This whole shift in paradigm from being an employee to being someone who can sell their own skills to clients or create sources of passive income by creating content online was just this very new concept to me, and it allowed me to half a year later quit my job. So I quit my job as a sysadmin in June 2019. That was my 30th birthday, and I was thinking to myself, what is it that I want to do? Where can I make the most impact? And I realized that for me personally, the most impact that I can make wasn't at my full-time job. It was somewhere where I can bring together all different parts of myself and do something I enjoyed and helped other people. I became a full-time technical instructor and technical writer. I re-recorded all of my courses in February of 2020. And before that, I had the honor of being invited to attend AWS reInvent 2019 in person in Las Vegas on a scholarship, which was a tremendous experience. Like, I was so blown away. This fall, right before AWS reInvent 2020, I found out that I was accepted as an AWS Community Hero. There's like a vetting process. And for myself, it took, I guess, around 3 years since I started really producing content and engaging with the community and giving back to the cloud computing community before acknowledgement came. And it is like a tremendous honor, especially given my background and given all the very strange ways that got me here, where I'm not really a solutions architect, I'm not an AWS engineer. I write, I consult, I teach, and for me to be able to grace the pages of fellow AWS heroes who are doing amazing, innovative things in the cloud, it kind of validates the existence of us, the people who take very strange ways to get to where we are, and we also are paving our own roads and our own careers and our own place in tech and in the world. And I didn't know, that these kinds of careers were available, that you can take the reins and pave your own way and create what you want to do. By being able to represent that person who was a special education teacher, who has multiple disabilities, and still is able to contribute to a lot of things, it's just makes me speechless. Like, I am so honored, and I'm very excited to see what more we can do together. Now, newly as an AWS Community Hero, I hope to create more content and engage more with public and help more people get into cloud computing and Amazon Web Services, because it's a fabulous career opportunity and not one that should be limited to people with certain educational background or certain work experiences. So this was kind of long, and you've just been staring at my face for a long time, so I'll end it here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be linking to my courses and AWS Newbies and stuff like that in the description below, so I hope you check them out. And if you are thinking about taking the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam, or you just want to start learning about Amazon Web Services or cloud computing and don't know where to start, I highly recommend you start with the website awsnewbies.com, take some courses at intro to aws.com, and join us at cloudnewbies.com, where we have an extremely welcoming community of people who are so helpful. Like, I am blown away every time I peek in at how helpful the members are. And there are people who have been in the industry for a decade, and there are people who are completely new, and everyone's asking questions, everyone's answering each other and sharing resources, and it's amazing community. So I hope that you'll come join us if you are interested in finding a community like that, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.